The recent release of the Poppy Playtime Orientation Notebook revealed a bunch of new secrets as to what was really going on at Playtime Co. And it feels like the more we learn about the lore, the darker it gets. In my previous video about this book, I talk about some of the most important parts that were inside. In this video, I want to point out all of the rest that I missed from before. So let's uncover even more of the dark secrets about Playtime Co. A lot of this book explains the in and outs of the company, how it was founded, what things are, and what to do in certain situations. This is a recurring theme throughout the book. Each location comes with its own set of rules. It also heavily emphasizes to never talk about what goes on in the factory, not even to coworkers, unless strictly necessary. The book mentions how if you suffer an accident at work, it's your fault, not theirs. It even states that if you thought you saw something odd or disturbing, perhaps something that might be of interest to law enforcement, it's important to remember that no, you didn't see anything. So right off the bat, as an employee, you quickly realize just how odd and secretive the company is. Now, early in the book, they talk a lot about the smiling critters. The notes, however, tell us that they were not as successful as Playtime Co. would have hoped. The cartoon series had little success as well. The notes here talk about how if the show had been a hit, it would still be running today, with tons of other spin-offs about each character. This note was oddly specific, so it makes me wonder if Playtime already made a few spin-off series that were just never aired because they didn't turn out popular. This could be hinting at future content for us. The note continues with how the show suffered because of the problems with the toy line, more specifically Catnap. How Catnap wasn't even liked in the cartoon either. He was supposed to be the calm and reassuring one of the group, but audiences didn't like how he never spoke and was distant from the others. The audience thought it was weird that he would put the other critters to sleep at night. However, Playtime tried to reassure everyone by pointing out that the others wanted him to do this, but it actually freaked the kids out more. Yeah, it's a little weird. Following this, there are a few pages about Poppy herself. It talks about her backstory, telling us how she wasn't just a talking doll, she was a listening doll. When Poppy was first launched, people couldn't believe that you could talk to her and she would talk back. Everyone wanted to know how this was possible, but the technology remained a closely guarded secret. The note here gives us some insight. It says how Playtime Co. made their employees sign multiple NDAs saying they'd never talk about it, but they still didn't even know how it works. Someone once said, "It's simpler than you'd expect," and refused to say more. However, I think we all know how this is possible. The page continues with how Poppy's instructions stated that if she was dismantled by untrained personnel, she would break and no refund would be offered. This was implemented to discourage people from poking around inside of their Poppy dolls, obviously because her insides were probably not just plastic. There is also a section talking about innovation, or in other words, the experimental program. It explains the purpose of it, how they prepare for the future, and how they make toys that do things you've never seen a toy do before. But no experiment ever came without a little risk. Don't be alarmed, they know what they're doing, and they always have everything under control. The note next to this mentions how this became a running joke amongst the team. When things go wrong, someone will say everything is under control. It seems like Playtime Co. would just wing it in hopes to create something new, and if something would go wrong, they would just try to play it off. The page also says to never venture into areas where these experiments are taking place. What you don't know won't hurt you. The note attached to this reads, "There are a lot of things I wish I didn't know. Experimental doesn't cover what goes on inside this factory," meaning there are still a lot of things we don't know about yet. The more we reveal about their past, the darker it gets. The section about the grab pack explains what it is and what it's used for, how it makes your job as an employee easier. It was originally invented by Elliot Ludwig to help him work in the factory as he got older, but it was so handy that the company rolled it out to all employees. Now, the page also mentions there is a yellow grab pack that we haven't ever seen before in the game. This hand was specialized and it would only be issued to employees who would apply for it. It was mostly used by employees that needed to reach high places, and it would launch the user into the air. This is similar to the purple hand we used in chapter 3. However, with the purple one, you need a special plate on the ground, whereas with this yellow hand, you could launch yourself anywhere. This could be hinting at one of the new grab pack hands we might be getting in chapter 4, or it could just be a scrapped idea that they used to turn into the purple hand for more practicality, as they probably didn't didn't want us jumping around the game everywhere. The note here talks about how employees would use the grab pack to catch experiments that would get loose. It seems like the experiments would often escape, but we will talk about this later. Now, we also get shown a progress report and security report covering the disappearance incident of Huggy Wuggy. The progress report talks about how everything was going smoothly with Huggy. His limbs were strong, so strong that they could dent metal. His sharp teeth could even split bone. And he had a smile that says he's every bit the toy you believe you know. He was the best product the innovation team had produced thus far. He was smart and did as he was told. He could hide in plain sight. He could watch. However, they spoke too soon. This security report tells us about what happened from the restricted disappearance tape we've already seen, so I'm not going to go over it, but there is a note attached to it. It says they covered up this incident as much as they could. It was as if the security team was letting Huggy do their job and got lazy, leading to his escape. They had to shut down the factory to the public to clean up the situation. There is a section about Elliot Ludwig's office, how they just leave it as it was when he was still there. But there are a few notes attached. The first note talks about how the employees never saw Elliot around the factory. His office door was always closed. People talked about him like he was still running things, but it felt like he had become detached from it all. This of course was because of the troubles he was having in his personal life, how his daughter passed away and his wife divorced him. The second note tells us that this employee went into his office once, how it was weird that it had no windows, only ventilation shafts to let air in. I believe this was so Poppy, his daughter, had direct access to his office. She would use the vent shaft to see him, and having no windows allowed for this to happen without anyone seeing or finding out. We also get a progress report for experiment 1222, otherwise known as Mommy Longlegs. They originally believed her to be a failure, being too hostile to work with. However, they made careful observation of her manner and noticed how protective she was of the other experiments. She had a motherly nature they hadn't anticipated, so they put her to work in the game station looking after the orphans. She was kind to the kids and did not act out in front of them, but the orphans questioned her. They figured she wasn't a puppet or a person in a suit. However, by making a joke out of it, the staff seemed to convince the orphans to accept her. An update report gives us more info. Some employees had concerns over Mommy Longlegs' stability. She would overreact if anyone cheated on the games, and she would get upset when the orphans left and didn't come back. She was starting to show her truly unhinged nature. This is something we experienced during chapter 2. Continuing on with the orphans, there is a section about the schoolhouse, where the orphans received all of their education, ranging from kindergarten to high school. Stella Graber and Leith Pierre had overhauled the curriculum, meaning they decided on what the students learned. It was important that the orphans knew all about the company's history and philosophy. It feels as if Playtime Co. was actually just trying to brainwash the orphans at a young age. The note here mentions Playtime made a doll that was a teacher. This is talking about Miss Delight. They used this model for all of the Schoolhouse teachers. Doing this was cheaper, more reliable, and easier to work with than actual teachers, aka humans. Real teachers might question some of the content they had been putting in the curriculum. Like I said, it seems like the Miss Delight teachers were trained to only teach certain things to the orphans, rather than giving them a proper education. The note continues with how the kids were not allowed to ask what happened to their old toys, ever. If they mentioned it, everyone pretended like the toy never existed. We also got another incident report for the science team eyes only. It explains what happened to experiment 1188, aka Catnap, when he first became a bigger body. This report is something that we have never seen before. After Catnap's experiment, he was given an adjustment period, but the security team failed to properly secure and lock his cell. This allowed him to break loose and attack the team. It took several tranquilizer darts to subdue him. This cost the team 6 lives. The aftermath of this massacre was like a scene out of a horror movie. All blood and bodies along the corridors, tinged with tufts of purple fur. The second page of this report explains how employees need to create stricter safety protocols for the experiments. Losing people like this was wasteful. It even lists the names of each victim. The note here mentions how it didn't stop them. Nothing was done to fix the safety of the employees. That's just what they had to live with. This shows the true mindset of Playtime Co. They would stress that steps needed to be taken to better protect protect their employees, when nothing would actually be done. They didn't care about the employees. They were just a number to them. Actions speak louder than words. The more we find out about Playtime Co., the darker the lore gets. So that was even more of the secrets this orientation notebook is hiding. How do you guys feel about the true nature of Playtime Co.? It seems like the more lore we get, the darker it is, and I love that. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and if you like horror game content like this, please consider subscribing. Also, if you want to support the channel more, you can become a member. Don't forget to follow my Twitter at TerrifiedT. Thanks for watching.